Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm a little bit late. My name's Sarah Makepeace. I'm streaming live from Vancouver, and I had some major technical issues, so I apologize for that. I just wanted to say hi and see if anyone is able to see or hear me before I start. Hopefully, okay. Thanks, everyone at the team, for helping me get live. So I guess I'll just start now. I'm in Vancouver and I am a volunteer with the Canadian Celiac Association, the Vancouver chapter, and I've been volunteering with them for a few years. Um, a little bit about me. I was diagnosed with celiac disease 13 years ago, but I still feel like it was yesterday. So I've spent a lot of time learning about celiac disease over the last 13 years with the help of the Canadian Celiac Association as well as my own research. Just want to let everyone know that's watching. I think it's only the Canadian Celiac Association right now, but this is my first time doing a live Facebook session, so I'm really nervous and I've had a few technical difficulties already, so I'll do my best to go from there. Today, I'm going to focus on the top 3 tips to get you started on your new journey with celiac disease. So this session is geared towards newly diagnosed celiac disease and newly diagnosed celiacs, but anyone is welcome to join or watch this afterwards. So I'm having a Facebook technical issue. While we wait for a few more people to join, I just wanted to see if those watching could post so I can know where you are or a little bit about you. Where are you coming from? Were you just diagnosed? As we progress, you can let me know if there's anything you want to hear about. I'll try to read the comments and do the live feed as I continue. So before I start, I just wanted to say that the information the Canadian Celiac Association provides does not replace your relationship with your doctor and or dietitian or other healthcare professional. The information is for general use, so be sure to talk to a qualified healthcare professional before making medical decisions or if you have questions about your health. We do our best to make sure that the information we provide is accurate and reliable, but cannot guarantee that it is error-free or complete. The CCA, the Canadian Celiac Association, is not responsible for the quality of the information or services provided during my session today, nor do they endorse any service. Hi, Wanda. Thunder Bay, great. How's the weather there? It's a little bit cold here. Diagnosed in January. Hi, Matt. That's exciting. Yay. I'm glad there's a few watching. So I think I might just get started right away, and Matt and Wanda, or if anyone else asks questions, just let me know. So I mentioned it briefly, but I was diagnosed over 13 years ago, and I can still remember the day that I was diagnosed so clearly in my head. It's cold. Yeah, it's cold here. I've forgotten a lot of my experiences related to my diagnosis, but I do remember really how overwhelming the experience was and how life-changing it was. I was a first-year undergraduate at the University of British Columbia at the time, and 13 years ago, no one really knew about celiac disease, or people knew, but it was very unheard of. The gluten-free trend hadn't started, so I was pretty much on my own, or I felt like I was. So when you're diagnosed, it's very shocking. And so Matt, if you were just diagnosed, I'm sure you're kind of experiencing this now, but you feel like no one will understand. And it feels kind of like a roller coaster of emotions and experiences. There's ups and downs. You're kind of sad sometimes, excited, confused sometimes. So these are all kind of normal experiences, and we've all kind of been there. So I just want to say that try to take it day by day, one step at a time, and as you adjust and kind of learn, it will get easier, I promise. So one note before I start talking about my 3 tips is I took this straight from the Canadian Celiac Association's website, but the gluten-free diet is a diet for life, which I know can be shocking at first to hear, but you should never, the gluten-free diet should never be started before the small intestinal biopsy is positive for celiac disease. This is what the Canadian Celiac Association is endorsing, and I am just going to state that here now before I start talking about my 3 tips. So just wanted to leave that there. So for those of you that were just diagnosed, you've been told that you must follow a gluten-free diet for life. And you're probably thinking, gluten-free diet, what's that for life? Is that real? Do I have to stay on the gluten-free diet for forever? The answer to that is yes. But what I thought my first tip would be is really learning about gluten. What is gluten? Where is it found? What are the other names? What other names does it have? Because for some, you may never have even heard about gluten before your diagnosis. And I remember sitting there being like, I don't even know what gluten is. So that's a very normal reaction. Gluten is a general name for specific proteins in certain grains. So the way that I kind of remember it is wheat, rye, contaminated oats, barley, malt, spelt, and rye, I think I already said. The list is quite short when I put it like that, but it's sometimes easiest when you first learn to just remember the basics and kind of build on that knowledge as you learn more. There are other terms such as, I can't say it, but durum and kamut and triticale, and these must also be avoided. I don't see those as often, having been a celiac for 13 years, but it is something you might see. So learning about what foods contain gluten is a very steep learning curve, and it'll take time for you to figure out what foods you have to avoid and what foods you have to question. And so when trying to think about what you should how to learn and where to go, I would encourage anyone to start this journey on the Canadian Celiac Association's website, www.celiac.ca, and look under Living Gluten-Free, and then newly diagnosed. Because on this section of the website, you'll find a list of what gluten is in addition to the items that I already mentioned, because there's kind of not just those 7 things I mentioned. There's every variation and derivative of those 7 things. And so in addition to learning the names of what you need to look for, it's also about how to read labels. And label reading is probably the biggest thing of what you need to kind of focus on. And so if you go onto the website, it actually shows you how to read a label. And I believe as of August 2012, labeling laws in Canada have gotten way easier and have helped us really to learn and how to read a label. So rather than trying to figure it on your own, go to the website and actually review the how to basically read a label. And you can start learning what to look for. And when you start reading labels, it's probably going to take you 20 minutes to read one label, and that is perfectly normal. I remember reading a label forever and not knowing if I was right or wrong, but it is easier now today to read the label and figure out what you should be looking for. Hi, Julie. Hi, Amy. So it will get easier with time, but I think starting on that website is a good place to start. In addition to that, the Canadian Celiac Association has also created a pocket dictionary of foods to avoid, foods to question, and foods that are safe, which you can actually get if you become a member of the Canadian Celiac Association, which I'll talk about later. But the pocket dictionary should become your best friend if you can. It was my best friend. I carried it in my purse with me when I was first diagnosed. I'd go anywhere I went, I would just open it up and read to see if it was safe, because at first there are so many things that you're trying to learn, and so it's hard to remember all the ins and outs of label reading, which is why the pocket dictionary should be your best friend. So the Canadian Celiac Association website and the pocket dictionary are really great when you're learning about gluten. I just wanted to add a funny note. It was talked about on the local Vancouver chapter's Facebook group the other day, but a common misconception is that you will need to avoid glucose, and glucose is not gluten. Thanks, Canadian Celiac Association, for posting the link. That's great. Glucose is a form of sugar. It's not a form of gluten, so you don't need to avoid glucose as much as other people might tell you, so don't get that confused. And the other thing I wanted to just briefly mention, and there is a statement on the Canadian Celiac Association's website about this, is if you're celiac, you can't eat oats. That's contaminated oats. So most oats are contaminated due from basically where they're grown. They're near wheat or rye or barley, and so the oats are contaminated. So we can't eat oats as a celiac. However, nowadays there are uncontaminated oats. They've been cured or they've been cleaned, so we can potentially eat uncontaminated oats. However, if you've just been diagnosed, try not to eat any oats right now. Just let your system kind of adjust to give you time. And if you have questions about that, you can ask or ask the Facebook group. So overall, you need to be gluten-free, and that's gluten-free for life, which is kind of a big thing to think about. But I think the easiest thing for you to do is just start learning about gluten and how to look for it. So that brings me to kind of my second biggest, my second tip of the day is, now that you've figured out, or now that you're starting to learn about what gluten is, you're probably thinking, what am I going to eat? I don't know what I can eat. Can I eat that cinnamon bun that I usually eat? I usually have a bagel in the morning. Can I eat that? My typical lunch is a sandwich. And so you start kind of focusing on everything that you can't eat, or you may not even know where to start. And so because this is such an overwhelming to think, I think the easiest thing is to start thinking about what you're going to eat for the next week or two. And to make it easier on yourself is to go back to the basics. Eat clean, eat natural. So think about plain foods, which doesn't sound thrilling to many people, but it's just the starting point. So some easy foods that I would think about would be naturally gluten-free foods, such as fresh fruits and vegetables, potatoes, corn, rice, meats like chicken, beef, pork, lamb, eggs. You can boil them, you can scramble them with oil, you can have poached eggs. You can have plain yogurt or other types of yogurt. You can have avocado and make smashed avocado with lime. You can buy some fresh packages of cheese. And I know it's very simple, but just add salt and pepper to the meat. Keep it very basic. Don't go too crazy, and just stick to those very basic foods. Mashed potatoes, boiled potatoes, roasted vegetables in the oven. You can kind of go pretty crazy with simple ideas, and that's what I would start doing rather than focusing on getting complicated. Another thing that I just wanted to say is, while we're thinking about what am I going to eat for the next few weeks, is if you're making food, bake batches of chicken or batches of different types of food, so that you can actually try to keep some of the food with you on a day-to-day, because you're going to get hungry, you're going to need a snack, and then you're going to probably be like, what am I supposed to eat? So if you just have that food ready at hand, it's easy to have on hand. I'm a big snacker, so I always need food with me. And so especially for the first few weeks while you're trying to figure this out, or first few months, just go basic and keep food on hand. So I'm at my third and favorite tip for the day. If anyone has questions, let me know. But my favorite tip is to find reliable, accurate information. Nowadays, it is so easy to get lost in the world of Google, and everything is available online. Everything's at your fingertips. You can Google what's available, or what movie am I going to go to, what's hot in, I don't know, Vancouver. But I think it's so easy to get overwhelmed with research and information online that I think the only thing right now you should be Googling is the Canadian Celiac Association. And I'm not just saying this because I'm doing a live Facebook session with the Canadian Celiac Association. When I was first diagnosed 13 years ago, someone randomly told me, join the Canadian Celiac Association, and it was the best thing I ever did. And having talked to many celiacs over the last 13 years, it seems to be the thing that everyone feels is best for them. So I would go and you can Google Canadian Celiac Association if you don't already know, but I would get connected with them. I would join and become a member. And through the membership and through the Canadian Celiac Association comes a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of support. So there are, in addition to the Canadian Celiac Association, you'll get a welcome package, which includes the Pocket Dictionary, but also the website has everything you need to know, newly diagnosed, how to read labels. There's a whole bunch of other very useful information, and I find it the easiest to go there because it's evidence-based, and the Canadian Celiac Association stays up to date on what we need to know. So that's my go-to place, and I think it should be yours. In addition to the Canadian Celiac Association, there are different chapters. So there's one maybe local, there's a Vancouver chapter here where I am. Even if you may not be near a local chapter, just still try to get connected into them because it's important to have that connection with other people. And what comes with the chapter is also the Facebook groups. And so the Canadian Celiac Association, this is a page, but there's also a support group, as well as the Vancouver chapter has a support group. And I know there are other support groups on Facebook around Canada. I would get connected to this group because this is your go-to place. You can ask questions of people. You can talk about how hard the experience is. You can talk about positives, negatives, but we are, and the Canadian Celiac Association and everyone involved is very there to support you during this time. So I think it is the best and the only support that I would use right now because it's very easy to get overwhelmed by everything else you're reading. And other websites maybe from the States, and we're in Canada, so the law is maybe different. And so that's why it's good to just stick to one site and not have 500 tabs of different information because you'll probably get misinformation. You'll may get the wrong information. You may get outdated information. So that's why I think it's so important to get connected with the Canadian Celiac Association. So those are kind of my 3 tips. I just wanted to say that while I've come up with 3 tips, I had about 50 more, but just having 3 to focus on was probably a good starting point. I have to say though, before I finish, or if anyone has questions, throughout your journey, especially during the beginning, be kind to yourself. During the initial stages of your diagnosis, there's going to be tons of information thrown at you. You're going to be on information overload. And so don't be hard on yourself. Take it one day at a time. Learn what you can, learn one thing at a day, and you can't figure it out all at once. It's impossible. And so it sounds simple, but it's seriously, don't be hard on yourself. You're going to make mistakes, and that is perfectly okay. We make mistakes. I've been celiac 13 years, and I still make mistakes, and that's okay. It happens. We're human. But when you're learning, even if you're cooking for yourself or you're helping someone in your family, things happen, but just be kind to yourself because it's hard enough as it is getting this information. And while it will get better right now, you just be happy that you're doing your best. So that's my kind of advice for the day. I don't know if anyone else has any questions, but those are my tips. And I just wanted to thank SHAR Canada for generously sponsoring this day. And if you've enjoyed this session, please consider making a donation to the Canadian Celiac Association. The CCA is the voice for the celiac community across Canada. And as a national charity, they coordinate events like these to bring accurate information, support to those with celiac disease and gluten intolerance, and invest in research for treatment and cures. And you can actually make a donation by visiting the website that I've been talking about, www.celiac.ca. Speaking of this website, we have a host of information and resources there for you and your healthcare professional, so I'd strongly recommend checking it out. Thanks, Linda. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I hope this was helpful. If you have questions, you can comment here or you can send them to the Canadian Celiac Association. I'd be happy to answer them. I hope everyone has a great day, and hope you enjoy the rest of the sessions today. I know they're going to be great. Thanks. Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone. Oh, thanks. Great feedback. Thanks, Steph. Thanks, Wanda. Bye-bye.